Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. I'm your host, CL4PTPV3, but you can call me by my locally designated name, Clap. Or that seems to be what everybody's calling me, so we'll roll with that. In this video I'm going to be discussing IRONSIGHT in open beta, but in general it kind of covers the whole of gaming in terms of open beta, but I'm going to be focusing it more into IRONSIGHT. And in the meantime, please enjoy the background footage of my girlfriend playing IRONSIGHT for the first time. So for those of you who are unaware, beta is essentially the pre-release version of a game, and a beta test is to basically play the game before it's released. Now there's two different types of beta testing, open and closed beta testing. With a closed beta, it's already in the title, but only a select few people are invited to take part, whereas an open beta, anybody that can access the game can play it, with the general idea being to gather feedback from the people who are. But that doesn't mean that's always the case. There are still many people, like me, who will see an open beta game and just pick it up and play it as though it's any other game. This is bad for the developers because they don't end up getting any constructive feedback about their game. They just have more players picking the game up, playing it, and probably not picking it back up again. But then is it really that much of a bad thing? Because if 10 to 15 people did that, that's 10 to 15 people more playing the game. But on a much grander scale, that could be 150 to 200 more players. Imagine a woman decides she wants to be a prostitute, but doesn't know if she's going to be any good at it or worth the money. So first off, she goes into closed beta, and only invites a select amount of people to try her out to let her know if she's any good. Those select amount of people will actually try her out and let her know if she's any good, or worth any money. Whereas if she was to go into an open beta, everyone and anyone would jump on the chance to have a go, and only about half of them would end up giving her any real feedback. So you tell me, is that time or effort wasted? In most cases, yes. But then on the other hand, the ones that just jumped in and then tossed it aside still played a vital part in the development of the game, as the developers of such game, or in this case the woman wanting to be a prostitute, would still be able to benefit from the experience of having all those players. As well as the types of beta, there's also this early access that's been popping up on the market for the past few years. Popular early access games include PUBG, H1Z1 and Rust. These are to name but a few. But these are also the bad examples of early access games. But what's the difference between beta and early access? I honestly have no fucking clue. To me the only difference is as beta you just play and test the game, whereas with early access you're paying to play the game early. Now going back to my examples earlier, why would I suggest that PUBG, H1Z1 and Rust are bad examples for early access titles and the name of early access and beta as a whole? That's because from my experience I think the developers really took the piss. They left it in early access for a lot longer than it should have, with very minimal updates. PUBG being the most recent one, in fact, where the Xbox One version has very few updates, and the updates that it does have very minimal impact on improving the game. And what makes it worse is the game's a full release on PC, so why they're finding it so hard to optimize it for console is beyond me. But saying that, I'm no game developer, so I'll leave it at that. Moving on to H1Z1, they just left this game in early access for so long that people got fed up with it being in early access. So when it eventually released into a full game, changing its title from King of the Kill to H1Z1, people already didn't give a shit, purely because it had just been in early access for far too long. Then there's the infamous early access game Rust, which appeared on the early access scene in December 11th, 2013. It didn't get its full release as a game until 2018. That's 5 years in early access or beta. That's 4, at least, years too long in my opinion. It was in early access for so long that even the engine got updated throughout its life. And a similar story with H1Z1, people just got fed up with the game before its release, with its release accompanying it with very bad reviews, or mixed at best. It seems to me that they just didn't use this early access time to develop the game into a far better state. But never fear, early access and beta isn't always that bad. We have a couple of examples of success stories, them being Don't Starve, Kerbal Space Program and Besiege. With Kerbal Space Program being the most likely of the three to succeed because of its backing. It had a much bigger funding than either of the other two games, so was able to release in a better state and had better development through its early access period. Whereas with Besieged, the best way to put it is, unfinished does not mean unpolished. They had a lot of very good working mechanics in the game that even though the game wasn't finished or have the content, everything that was in there was very well polished. And it just kept adding content and getting better. Which is a very similar story with Don't Starve as well. And now onto the title game of the video, IRONSIGHT, and how it's currently using open beta. It had very good success in its closed beta, with many people rating it very highly. However, it did fail when tested on the Korean market, and when it opened up on the Western market, it was met with very high praise. From when I first started playing the game, there was only one issue of note, and that was being the ranked on the EU server doesn't work. After weeks of complaining about this, I found out that ranked on the NA server does. After trying it out, it was perfectly fine. Despite being on a different server completely, it played fine nonetheless. In terms of actual gameplay, I feel like the game's already very well polished, and there's not too much that they could do to further it. Obviously there's a few bugs here and there, but that's expected from a game that hasn't been in open beta for very long. Granted, it was in closed beta for a good time before that, but as soon as it released into open beta, they are definitely going to be facing more problems. With more players equals server issues, and server issues then equals gameplay issues. So for IRONSIGHT as a whole, moving into open beta is definitely beneficial towards the development of the game. Now, what sparked the idea of this video was hearing somebody in the Discord say, "Oh look, another free-to-play open beta game. Oh look, loads of pay-to-win shit." To which obviously everybody jumped in and started correcting him. There is nothing pay-to-win about this game. All that you can spend money on is cosmetics in the game currently, and even then they can only be purchased with real money by buying ARIA points. Now these ARIA points aren't even exclusive to the IRONSIGHT game either. ARIA points can be used across all ARIA games, and can also be obtained by playing other ARIA games. God, that's weird to say. So when you look at it from this point of view, there is pretty much nothing in-game that you can spend real money on. Since discovering the game a little over a month ago, I have also become an IRONSIGHT partner. This basically means that they give me access to information about the game before any announcements are officially made. This information is also given to other IRONSIGHT partners. And the idea behind this is so we can create content on either Twitch or YouTube or a platform of our choice to help promote it. Is this a good idea? So far, so good. Being the game that IRONSIGHT currently is, and based on its history, it doesn't have a huge following. The player count is so low that I very often find myself bumping into the same players over and over again, and not even on the same days. Obviously this is going to be something that changes in the future, but being a small community, we all listen to each other and help each other out as often as we can. The first big update of note happened on Monday the 23rd of April. This was a big content update. This sparked a little bit of controversy between partners. I stayed mostly neutral through it, but there was some who were saying that it's a great idea to be adding this content into the game, as this would draw more players into the game and give current players even more to work for, also keeping them into the game even longer. Whereas the other side of the fence says that the update should have been more heavily focused on gameplay and server improvements, even though there were some included in the update. And despite the update, since the implementation, I have experienced more server issues than I had before. So I am definitely more towards the side of the fence saying that they should have spent more time improving the servers. Despite this, the developers do say that they are still listening to us and are definitely working on a big server update in the near future. So according to what they've been saying, the developers are listening to its player base. But will they implement and act on what they're saying? Only time will tell, as it is still early stages. And now moving on a little bit over to the IRONSIGHT Partner Program. What this basically is IRONSIGHT are getting in contact with content creators to create content. And in return they're giving the content creators content to create and support for their channel by hosting their streams on Twitch or sharing their videos to the Discord, Facebook or Twitter page. So it's a win-win situation for both IRONSIGHT and the content creators, like me. Now for an open beta game like IRONSIGHT, is it worth doing? And will it be successful? Again, only time will tell, but from what we've seen so far it's working very well, as it allows the IRONSIGHT team to use us partners to get in contact with regular players about their views and opinions on the game, create content on it and feedback to them. So if the developers are listening to this video, take note. At the end of the day, many people are getting fed up with open beta and early access games. I for one am not, as it's a great way for very unknown games like IRONSIGHT to get onto the scene early. Put it this way, if IRONSIGHT was to release as a full game, instead of going into open beta, they would have had to put a bit more resources into it what they currently have, meaning the game wouldn't be as good as it should be when it eventually does release into a full game. Personally, I'm all for IRONSIGHT being released into open beta, but there's still loads of people that disagree with this. With those people mainly being the closed beta testers, as they see the game was in a better state in closed beta. But then saying that, what if it was released out of closed beta into a full release? I think the same problems would have still occurred, and as a full game, nobody would have wanted that. I think IRONSIGHT in the future are going to use its open beta phase to the best of its abilities, and I hope they definitely do. And that's all I've got time for today. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and don't forget to subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter, Twitch and Facebook, all using the name CL4PTPV3. Thank you very much and I'll see you in the next one.